Lego is no ordinary company, and this is no ordinary story. It nearly broke itself by building everything except the brick that made it famous. In 1932, in Billund, Denmark, Ole Kirk Christiansen needed work badly enough to turn a carpenter's shop into a toy business. The stakes were personal from the start, because this was not a rich industrialist chasing a trend. He was a joiner, a skilled woodworker, trying to keep a small business alive during hard years. His workshop smelled of sawdust, varnish, and wet Danish winter air. He made stepladders, ironing boards, and wooden toys, whatever customers would actually pay for. In 1934, he gave the company a name, Lego, from the Danish phrase "leg godt," play well. That name sounded light, but the standard behind it was severe. Ole's motto, as he put it, was, "Only the best is good enough." He even carved those words onto a workshop sign, turning quality into a daily command. That mattered, because toys are judged by small hands before they are judged by markets. A crooked wheel or rough edge is not an accounting problem. It is a broken promise. Then disaster hit. In 1942, a fire destroyed the factory. Flames erased inventory, tools, and years of work in a single night. For a small family company in a small town, that kind of loss can end the story. Ole rebuilt anyway. But rebuilding raised a harder question. If wood was the past, what would the future be made of? By 1947, Lego was risking money on something many traditional toy makers distrusted: plastic. The danger was obvious. Wood felt honest, familiar, and durable. Plastic felt artificial, cheap, and suspicious. Ole and his son, Ole Kirk Christiansen, bought an injection molding machine anyway. It was a radical move for a company still small enough to feel every bad decision in cash. The machine hissed, clamped, and spat out bright pieces with mechanical precision. In 1949, Lego began selling automatic binding bricks. They were early plastic bricks, inspired by an existing British concept, and they were not yet the final answer. The problem was clutch power, the grip that lets bricks stay together and still come apart. If the brick failed there, the entire idea failed with it. So the family kept refining the design. In 1954, Godfred pushed a bigger idea he called the system of play. A single toy was easy to copy. A system, where every set connected to every other set, was much harder to replace. In 1958, Lego patented the modern brick design with tubes underneath. That hidden tube solved the locking problem and turned a clever toy into a building language. The same year, Ole died. He left behind a company with a breakthrough in its hands, and no guarantee the world would care. In 1960, another fire hit Lego, this time destroying a warehouse of wooden toys. The stakes now were strategic. The company could split its energy between wood and plastic, or commit. It chose plastic. That decision narrowed the business and widened the future. The brick became the center, not one product among many. In 1968, Lego opened the first Legoland Park in Billund. It was a physical advertisement disguised as a destination. Families arrived for a day out and left deeper inside the brand. The company was no longer selling only toys, it was selling a world. By then, the sound of bricks tumbling from a box was becoming part of childhood itself. In 1978, Lego introduced the modern minifigure, with moving arms and legs and that famous smile. That tiny figure changed the brick from architecture into drama. Kids no longer just built houses and cars, they built characters, missions, rescues, crimes, kingdoms, and jokes. The genius of Lego was that the instructions ended, but the system did not. The more sets a child owned, the more possibilities multiplied. And with that, Lego had something dangerous for any rival to challenge: habit, imagination, and a format that invited endless return. But success can hide a weakness, especially when a company starts believing its magic works everywhere. By the 1990s, Lego was famous, profitable, and under pressure from every side. Video games were eating children's attention. Toy retailers wanted constant novelty. Competitors could undercut prices on simpler products. Inside LEGO, the answer became expansion. More themes, more specialized parts, more businesses. In 1998, the company posted its first loss. That should have been a warning shot. Instead, LEGO kept stretching. Clothing, watches, publishing, television, video games, and bigger ambitions in theme parks. Some of those moves made sense on their own. Together, they created a problem the audience could not see, but the factory could feel: complexity. A product line can look exciting on a shelf and still be disastrous underneath. More unique pieces mean more molds, more inventory, more forecasting mistakes, more cost. The brick was still everywhere, but the system behind it was getting harder to control. LEGO had built a business children loved, and managers could no longer simplify. And when a company loses track of what makes it special, it often learns the truth in the ugliest place possible: the numbers. By the early 2000s, LEGO was in real trouble. The danger was no longer theoretical. This was not a beloved brand having a bad quarter. This was a company whose business model had become too expensive to carry. Sets had grown more complex. The number of unique pieces had exploded. The parks demanded attention. New ventures pulled leadership away from the core toy. Then came the deepest humiliation. Even strong sales in some areas did not fix the underlying machine. Revenue does not save you if the system producing that revenue is broken. In 2003, LEGO reported the worst financial result in its history. The company was burning trust inside its own walls. Employees saw confusion. Retailers saw inconsistency. The family behind LEGO faced a brutal question: what do you cut when almost every cut feels like a betrayal? You could hear the stress in the sterile quiet of meeting rooms and the scrape of chairs across hard floors. The answer would not be heroic or sentimental. It would be surgical, and it would arrive with a new leader. In 2004, Jorn V. Knudstorp became chief executive, and the stakes could not have been simpler. Fix LEGO or watch it keep shrinking. He was younger than many expected, and less romantic than the myth required. That helped. Turnarounds fail when leaders fall in love with stories instead of costs. Knudstorp started with an uncomfortable idea. LEGO did not need more imagination at the top. It needed more discipline. He cut businesses that distracted from the core. LEGO sold control of its theme parks. It reduced product complexity. It pulled back from sprawling experiments that made the brand look larger while making the company weaker. This is the part people often dislike in comeback stories. Recovery is usually subtraction before it is inspiration. The company studied which products actually earned money, which pieces were overused, and where the supply chain was wasting effort. A supply chain is simply the system that gets a product from design to factory to shelf. If that system is bloated, every brick carries hidden weight. Knudstorp also listened to adult fans, designers, and children with new seriousness. LEGO had spent years moving away from the brick. Now it had to relearn why the brick worked. The business was stabilizing, the culture was sharpening, and once the company had stopped trying to be everything, it could become dangerous again. By the late 2000s, LEGO's comeback was no longer just about cost-cutting. The stakes had changed again. Surviving was not enough. The company had to become loved for the right reasons. That meant returning to the brick as a system, not a souvenir. Designers focused on sets that felt rich without becoming chaotic. Themes became stronger when they were easier to understand. Partnerships helped, but only when they worked with the core product instead of replacing it. Star Wars had already shown what a license could do when characters met a construction system people understood. LEGO also began treating its fan community less like a niche and more like an asset. Adult fans were not an embarrassment. They were unpaid product testers, historians, evangelists, and critics. the company opened wider channels for feedback and co-creation. You can feel the difference when a brand respects its most obsessive users. The products get tighter. Then, culture gave Lego another gift. In 2014, the Lego Movie turned the company's own logic into a joke, a philosophy, and a commercial at the same time. The line between toy and entertainment blurred again, but now the brick stayed at the center. Lego had remembered its trick. The system was the story. And once that clicked, the comeback turned into momentum. By the 2010s, Lego had done something rare. It had come back without becoming unrecognizable. That is harder than growth. Many companies survive a crisis by turning into a different business. Lego survived by becoming more itself. It still expanded, but with stronger boundaries around the brick, the system, and the brand. In 2014, it became the world's largest toy company by revenue. That mattered less as a trophy than as proof. Focus had beaten sprawl. The lesson is not that diversification is bad. It is that expansion without coherence becomes expensive theater. A theme park, a film, a license, a game, all of it can work if the core product grows stronger as a result. If the core gets weaker, growth is only noise. Lego learned that the hard way, then turned the lesson into strategy. In 2023, the company reported revenue of 65.9 billion Danish kroner. That number sits on top of a simple idea first tested in a small Danish workshop. Make one thing so well and so coherently that people want to keep building on it for decades. Childhood did not belong to Lego forever. It had to be won back, one brick at a time. Lego's near collapse was not caused by a lack of creativity. It was caused by creativity without discipline, a beloved product of creativity. It was caused by creativity without discipline, a beloved product buried under too much ambition. The comeback came when Lego remembered that a brand is strongest when every new move makes the core product better, not busier. In 2023, Lego reported revenue of 65.9 billion Danish kroner. For a company built on one small brick, that is a very large reminder of what focus can do.